Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, here with some post-fight comments on Vitali Klitschko's victory over Odlanier Solis. Now, I have a couple of videos up. I was one of those people who thought that this fight was going to be one of the best heavyweight fights in some time. I actually thought that Odlanier Solis was the most talented opponent that Vitali Klitschko had faced since facing another champion, Lennox Lewis, many years ago. I stand by that. Let's talk about what happened in this fight. First, if you've had a chance to look at the film of the fight, what I want you to do is to refer to that film as I discuss this. On my YouTube channel page right now, and that's youtube.com/DWYER70905. I actually have up the video of the fight. I'm sure YouTube is going to take that video down probably within the next 48 hours, right? Because fight videos, some fight promoters don't like the video to be up free to the public after the fight. They're intellectual property issues. I'm not the person who posted the video. I'm just cut and pasting it. But if you look at the video, you'll notice a few things. The first thing, and it's at the 3-minute and 40-second mark of the video. It's a replay of the punch that supposedly ended the fight. Let me just say, there is an angle that's shown on that video that clearly establishes, in my opinion, that the punch, which was a counter right hook, that punch was blocked. Odlanier Solis not only has his hands up, he actually blocks the punch. That punch had very little to do with Odlanier Solis's leg injury. And let me point out, it has now been confirmed that the leg injury was severe. It's a torn posterior cruciate ligament and a torn meniscus. So for anyone watching the telecast who heard Lennox Lewis himself say that there might have been a pre-existing injury, that's just ridiculous. Odlanier Solis would not be able to move the way he was moving with a torn cruciate ligament, right? Just would not have happened. Let me also point out the obvious too. Odlanier Solis was Vitali Klitschko's mandatory challenger. Mandatory. So understand the way the world of boxing works. If you are the mandatory challenger and you have a verifiable injury, let's say he had this torn cruciate ligament before the fight, right? You could easily withdraw from the fight, have a doctor confirm the injury, and still remain toward the top of the rankings. Quite frankly, given the odds involved and the money involved, it would be foolish for any fighter to proceed with a fight with a major injury where they knew they would not be able to win the fight when that fight is for the heavyweight championship of the world, right? A 6-month delay for Solis to, or even an 8-month delay for Solis to rehab the injury and get back in the ring would have been financially worth his time because the heavyweight championship is that lucrative. I have no doubt in my mind that Vitali Klitschko made millions of dollars yesterday. As a mandatory contender, no one is going to go into the ring with an injury they know that renders them unable to compete. Not only that, for anyone who has ever come across a cruciate ligament tear, no one with an anterior or posterior cruciate ligament tear would be able to move like Odlanier Solis moved. Let me make a few more points. Okay? Odlanier Solis, at least according to how I saw the fight, was actually winning that first round. Not only was the fight competitive, Odlanier Solis was actually winning that first round before he goes down off of not a punch, but a torn knee injury. Let me also point out, too, and you can see this on the film, when he goes down, he's completely lucid. He's not concussed. He's not dazed. He's not confused. He immediately grabs his leg. At no time on the film does Odlanier Solis look like he's been knocked out or even dazed by anything Vitali Klitschko has done. Let me also say, too, on the film, and it's clear on the film, right after the fight, Vitali Klitschko walks over to Solis's corner. He's actually upset with Solis. He believes that Solis has thrown the fight. You can see it on the film. He goes over to the corner by his own admission. Vitali doesn't even deny this. He goes over to the corner, and he is, upset, wondering what's going on. He even turns around, looks at the crowd, and stretches his hands out as if to say, what just happened? Well, my point to you is this. Vitali Klitschko is blessed with very heavy hands, has a very high knockout ratio, has knocked out many men, yet he knew that the punch that he threw, and you could see the punch is a weak punch on film, he knew that the punch that he threw wasn't knockout caliber. Let me also point out, too, that Odlanier Solis has a great chin, came into the fight undefeated, had never been knocked out. So if you want to deconstruct the styles of the fights, because clearly the punch didn't cause the knockout, right? Not when the film shows the punch being blocked. And when I say blocked, I'm talking about the punch doesn't even land on Solis. The punch actually lands on the back of his glove, right? I mean, doesn't even land on Solis. So if you want to talk about whether or not the fight was competitive, I would ask you to consider the following. About 1 minute into this fight, you're going to see the best shot on a fighter's temple thrown in the fight. And it's actually Odlanier Solis throwing an overhand right on Vitali Klitschko. Let me also make another point. It's clear from that punch that Solis has Klitschko timed, right? Fighters, just like Nonito Donaire, threw a left hook in the first round, the round before the knockout, of his win over Fernando Montiel, right? What fighters do is they go for dry runs. As George Foreman used to say, he would throw a punch half-heartedly early in the fight just to see if it would land, because he knew that if he threw the punch with all his might early in the fight, while his opponent was 100% healthy with no stamina problems, not tired, he knew that if that punch landed, the opponent might then wake up to the fact that he could throw that punch and land with it. Then the opponent would stay away from him the rest of the fight, so he wouldn't have the opportunity to hit the opponent with that shot later in the fight. Fighters like to go for dry runs, right? They like to do a rehearsal. Odlanier Solis throws an overhand right, has Vitali timed. He's up on the ropes. He throws an overhand right. It hits Vitali flush, right? All I'm saying, and Solis realizes, too, after it hits Vitali, that he's not going to get countered off that punch. So all I'm saying to you is, and it's a minute into the fight. Don't believe me. Believe the film. So all I'm saying to you is, had this fight progressed, I believe Solis had already figured out how to time Vitali Klitschko. Let me also point out, too, we know that somebody was going to get knocked out in this fight just by looking at Vitali Klitschko's left hand. Has it ever been lower? His left hand is dangling below his waist. He's practically daring Odlanier Solis to open up. He doesn't want a decision. He wants a shootout. In fact, if you look at the film, you're going to see that Vitali Klitschko is being openly openly aggressive throughout that first round, right? He wants a shootout. He has his hand low. Unlike Roy Jones and Carl Froch, who have dangling left hands, unlike Lucien Boutte, who we saw with a dangling left hand yesterday against Brian McGee, those guys have a wide foot base. They stay a little away from their opponent. Brad Solomon against Demetrius Hopkins, he fights in a Roy Jones stance, right? So these guys dangle their left, but they're not up on you. So they aren't vulnerable to you throwing punches over their left shoulder, right? You know, when Carl Froch drops his left hand and he's a little bit outside of you, daring you to come forward, Froch makes sure that he's out of your punching range, right? Roy Jones, same thing. These guys are a few feet away from you outside of your punching range. Contrast that with how Vitali Klitschko, very seasoned, very skilled fighter. In fact, I think he's much more skilled than his brother. Contrast that with the distance Vitali Klitschko leaves between himself and Odlanier Solis. He's literally stalking Solis while he has his hand down. This was boxing theater of the highest order, especially when you consider the knockout ratios of the two guys. So I have no doubt somebody was going to get knocked out in the fight because both guys were being somewhat aggressive in the fight. Also understand that Solis normally fights coming forward. So that first round was actually a feeling out round for him, as he literally is backing up and allowing Vitali to take the lead in that first round. And even with that strategy, I thought Solis won the first round of the fight. Also, as for those who want to pursue a storyline of Odlanier Solis being fat, I think we heard that from some of the biggest names in boxing. Heavyweight champion David Haye called Solis fat. Understand there's a lot of positioning, a lot of posturing, a lot of marketing going on. David Haye knows that he lost to Solis in the amateurs. David Haye knows that he's never been in a rush to fight Odlanier Solis. Not only that, you know, we can call Odlanier Solis fat. He was actually outweighed in the fight by Vitali Klitschko. Anyone who has watched heavyweight boxing recently and has kept track of the weights of people like Chris Arreola, Tony Thompson, Jameel McCline, you know, any of these guys knows that 246, quite frankly, isn't fat by heavyweight standards. Also, we can criticize a guy for being fat. Solis has never been stopped in a fight. His weight has never been anything other than an aid for him in a fight in terms of being able to load up on punches. Clearly, even with the weight, it's clear he had the quicker hands than Vitali Klitschko. So all I could say is, as a boxing fan, you know, this is a big disappointment that we got a great fight. The first round was high intrigue of the highest order, with Solis fighting backing up and Vitali Klitschko having his hand dangling below his waist, with you know, Solis showing that he could actually touch Vitali Klitschko, and with Klitschko trying to aggressively open up in a way that he didn't open up against Kevin Johnson. Um, you know, all I could say is this was a very good fight that I hope we see again. Unfortunately, knee ligaments can rupture even without contact. I can tell you, as a fan of the National Football League, one of the best athletes I've seen in any sport in my lifetime, Hall of Famer Rod Woodson, once tore his ACL trying to make a tackle. Nobody hit him. He just stepped wrong, ACL gone. I can tell you that Jamal Anderson, on a team that made the Super Bowl, was once running between the tackles. Nobody hit him. He just stepped wrong, tore his cruciate ligament. These things happen. Odlanier Solis blocked a shot on the inside, was just backing out with literally seconds left in the first round, a round in which he won, and his knee popped. We're all worse off because of it. I thought this was a good fight. I hope we see it again. Odlanier Solis remains a major player in the heavyweight division. Thanks for watching.